And he sent me something today which I thought was amusing that I wanted to share tonight. It comes from a letter to the editor in an Israeli newspaper, which appeared under the title, "The Miracle of the Oil," then the word dash, then a dash, then the word change, and then a question mark. So in other words, to read it out loud, "The Miracle of the Oil Change, question mark." Here's the story. Last week, the author writes, I brought my car to the dealer for an oil change. After, I picked up the car and drove home. The next morning, when I started the car, the low oil light was flashing at me in red. Low oil, check engine. Well, that was strange. Sometimes they forget to reset the system. But to be sure, before I drove anywhere, I checked the oil level myself. And lo and behold, so to speak, it was almost empty. I brought the car back to the dealer and found out that the service department had only put in 1 quart of oil. My car requires 4. Now here's where the Hanukkah story enters. The author of the letter says, I assume there were 2 possibilities. Perhaps the mechanic made a mistake, that he was interrupted as he was putting the oil and lost track of how many quarts he poured into my car. Or maybe, he writes, with a sense of humor, the repair person was really a Maccabee, and he assumed that in December, if you put a small amount of oil, it miraculously expands, overturning the laws of nature. 1 quart of oil will miraculously become 4 and will last until my next oil change. Being a skeptic, though, he writes, I suspected no miracle was happening in my car, nor was it about to. In fact, if I had tried to drive and ignored the warning light, I would have destroyed my engine. So I asked them to give me all the oil I needed. So that's the end of the letter. We all know, of course, that engine oil doesn't expand on its own, but the story leads to the question often asked about what really is the miracle of Hanukkah. Interestingly, the rabbis, when they chose to add a prayer about Hanukkah, do not include any mention of the miracle of the oil, either in the temple or in car repairs. They did stress that there was a miracle, but it was different. We find the rabbis answer each day when we say Al Hanisim, in which we thank God for the miracles, the redemption, the mighty deeds, the saving acts, and the wonders. It singles out Mattatyahu against the wicked government. It emphasizes how God delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, the many into the hands of the few, the impure into the hands of the pure, the wicked into the hands of the righteous, and the sinners into the hands of those who occupy themselves with Torah. Notice, no miracle of oil. What then is the miracle? To the rabbis, it's not oil. It is the unexpected victory of the few against the many, and the hope that when the odds are long, that faith helps us overcome the odds. Dr. Ron Wolfson, the prominent Jewish educator, points out that when we speak of the miracles of Hanukkah today, we should discuss them based on the ages of the people we teach. For younger children, we should speak of the wonder of the oil that lasted for 8 days. But for adults, Dr. Wolfson suggests, we can talk about modern miracles that we experience, such as when someone recovers from an illness, or the creation of a vaccine, or the survival of the Jewish people through the millennia of those who have stood against us in every attempt to put an end to our way of life, beginning with Hanukkah and even today. The survival of the state of Israel, just to name a few. Such victories may have at times looked impossible, but yet, shall we say miraculously, here they are, and here we are. And so that car mechanic in Tel Aviv, who worked on the car, probably just lost count of how many quarts of oil he put in. But at the same time, he was the conduit to remind the owner of that car and us that the faith and hope of the essence of the Jewish people can overcome seemingly impossible odds, and that is truly miraculous. Those miracles can and should be with us, not just during Hanukkah and not just when we're out driving, but every day in every way. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Urim Sameach.